What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the box office for this weekend, specifically talking about F1 and M3gan 2.0, which both released this weekend and both went in completely different directions. F1, on one hand, opened to $55.6 million, which is just incredible. It's a little lower than I thought it could get. I thought it might be able to jump to 60, but it's just under that. But it definitely beat industry projections that were calling it at around 35 to 40. So it did very well, and it's going to continue to do really well. It's going to have great legs. That Rotten Tomatoes score, the audience score being 97%, with an A cinema score. It has the word of mouth is just incredible for this thing, and so this thing is going to have great legs and play all throughout the summer. Which is good. It needed great word of mouth to be able to compete with Jurassic World and Superman and Fantastic Four, which are all three coming up in July. So that is great for F1, but on the other hand, M3gan 2.0 bombed disastrously with $10 million on its opening weekend compared to the first one, which did $30 million in its domestic opening, and that one opened in January, this one in June. And so, the idea that, June movies open higher than January movies, not in this case. M3gan opening to $10 million, which is just horrible. The only reason that I think that they're probably going to do a sequel to M3gan 2.0, they're going to do M3gan 3, is because of the budget. This thing only cost $25 million to make, which means if you do the 2.5x, which is like 2.5 times the budget, that's the break-even point. That lands this thing around $60 to $70 million of break-even point, which I don't think it will actually get to. So I think it will lose like maybe $5 to $10 million, but I think Blumhouse will be just fine. They may lower the budget for the third one, depending on how it does on streaming. So we'll see. I think this thing will probably do very well on streaming, but not well in theaters, clearly. And I've heard a lot of different people say a lot of different things about why M3gan 2.0 did not perform to the heights of the first one. And so far, I've only heard about one or two actually nail it. So one of the reasons that a lot of people bring up is that this one's not as good as the first one. That's true. It's not as good as the first one, but usually that does not hurt the opening weekend. Usually that only hurts, the future weekends and the legs. Very rarely does word of mouth to cripple it to this extent. And the pre-sales were rough anyway. So, word of mouth, or good word of mouth or bad word of mouth, the pre-sales were what they were, and they were disastrous. I mean, these projections were low to begin with, and so word of mouth I don't think has anything to do with this thing doing horribly on its opening weekend. It'll probably contribute to the fact that it won't do as well, won't drop 50%, it'll probably drop 60% in its second weekend, but it has nothing to do with its opening weekend. Another reason that people say that M3gan 2.0 bombed was the genre shift from the horror to action, and they compared it to Joker Folie à Deux, Joker 2. When the first Joker was kind of one type of film, Joker 2 was a completely different type of film, and then Joker 2 bombed, incredibly bombed comparatively to the first Joker. And so that is definitely true. I think that there's something to be said for that, where it's not what people are expecting out of a M3gan sequel, but at the same time, there were a lot of people that were very excited for this movie, and when the trailer initially came out, there was a lot of hype building for this film, even though with the genre shift. So that could have been, hurt it a little bit. I think it helps knowing that Joker 2 did what it did, and so that kind of backs that theory up a little bit, but I still don't think that's the main reason. Another reason is the whole TikTok thing. When the first M3gan came out, the dance went viral on TikTok, and it became this kind of event, and so people rushed out to see the first one. However, I think that when that happens, when a film goes on TikTok and just blows up, people will go see it, they like what they see, and then they'll come back for more. That's not what happened with this one, and so again, it's well, why is that, right? We haven't, a film that blows up on TikTok, the sequels tend to do really well. Like, for example, a Minecraft movie, right? A Minecraft movie blew up on TikTok, and everybody's now, oh, we want a sequel. We want a sequel now. Five Nights at Freddy's was the same way. It had a huge internet appeal, and now everyone's begging for the sequel. This wasn't the same for M3gan 2.0. Well, it was the same for M3gan 2.0, but the hype was there. Everyone was super excited about this thing, and then no one showed up. And so I don't think it was the TikTok thing. I don't think that was an issue with the sequel. I think the big problem with this sequel was its release date, releasing in June. People are a lot more picky about what they go and they spend their money on these days, on which movies they go to see. And when they look at a slate that's like How to Train Your Dragon, Elio from Pixar, and 28 Years Later, and F1, and Jurassic World, and Superman, and Fantastic Four, in a summer with all of those films around that June and July area, M3gan 2.0 just gets lost. It just gets lost in all of the other films, because if people really like the first M3gan, but they're like, well, we're going to only go see 2 movies between June and July, which movies are we going to go pick? Well, F1 is getting really, really good reviews, and, How to Train Your Dragon looks really good, so maybe one of those for June, and then you've got Superman and Fantastic Four and Jurassic World in July, so we'll go see one of those. And when you have that, M3gan just gets completely forgotten. Like, there's too much competing, and M3gan's not getting those same screens, right? It's getting a lot less screens because F1's taking all the IMAX screens, and next weekend Jurassic World's grabbing all the normal screens because F1's going to keep those IMAX screens, so M3gan's going to lose a bunch. And so it was just a really bad decision to release this in June. This should have been a January movie. The first one, they found success in January, and I'll say this January needed a film like M3gan to come in and do something, because this January had, frankly, nothing. So it would have had legs for just forever. Like, it would have been able to play for a long time, probably until Captain America 4 this in February, but it would have been able to play for 3 weekends without any competition whatsoever. And it would have been able to keep consistently releasing in January. And this is just a January franchise. It's not the big summer blockbuster franchise. This is this is a smaller franchise that they need to realize that it's a smaller franchise, and they shouldn't be so over the top and go for June. Just competing with films like Marvel and Jurassic World and F1 and How to Train Your Dragon. You're just not going to win that. Blumhouse is not the type of studio that's going to be able to compete with those studios, and they have to realize that, and they have to go back to that January release date. So whenever M3gan 3.0 comes out, they've got to go back to that original release date. I'm telling you, that's why this movie did not perform as well. It's just too much competition. There were plenty of people excited for this thing. There were enough people excited for this thing to make it do just as well as the first one did. And it had nothing to do with reviews, had nothing to do with TikTok, had nothing to do with genre shift. It had everything to do with the release date and what people are willing to go see. That's it. So M3gan 2.0 bombs, F1 goes high. So let's move on to the top 10 this weekend, F1. And the numbers, the 55.6 was the Sunday estimate. The numbers that actually came in for F1 was actually 57 million, so it actually went up. All right, so F1 with $57 million is number 1 this weekend. Number 2, we have How to Train Your Dragon, which in its third weekend dropped 47%, made $19.4 million. It crossed the $200 million domestically milestone, which is great for How to Train Your Dragon. At number 3, we have Elio with $10.7 million, down 49% in its second weekend. That's a rough drop. Elio, with how low it opened already, this thing should have dropped about 42%, or maybe even in the 30s is what it should have dropped to. But unfortunately for it, it just keeps dropping further and further. At number 4, we have M3gan 2.0, which made $10.2 million. Again, not great at all. At number 5, we have 28 Years Later with $9.7 million, down 68% in its second weekend. That film's up to $50 million overall domestically. That's a horrible drop. 68% in its second weekend. That is comparable to like Argyle, and some of the bigger drops over the years, like Borderlands, dropped a similar 68%. I believe The Crow also dropped 68%. Just a really rough drop for a film that, you know, is quite divisive. Some people love it, some people hate it, but clearly the word of mouth for this thing is not strong because it dropped 68%, which is just ridiculously bad. At number 6, we have Lilo and Stitch, which did $6.9 million, down 29%. That had a great hold in its 6th weekend. That film crossed the $400 million domestic milestone. It is also up close to that $650 million milestone. It will pass Minecraft to be the biggest film worldwide, Hollywood film worldwide of the year. And, you know, it might hit $1 billion. It might hit $1 billion. It's going to be really, really close. I could see this thing in like the 980s to 990s, just over $1 billion. Like if it gets to $1 billion, it's going to be like just a few million over. So it's going to probably, I think it's going to get to $1 billion, but it's going to be very, very close. At number 7, we have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning with $4.1 million, down 36% in its 6th weekend. That film's up to $185 million on its domestic run. Number 8, we have The Materialist in its 3rd weekend, making $3 million, down 53%. It's up to $30 million in its domestic run. Number 9, John Wick: Ballerina dropped $2.1 million, down 53%. That film's up to $55 million in its 4th weekend. Again, another rough drop for Ballerina. It hopefully will do well on streaming. I don't know if they've set a release date for that yet, when it's going to come out on streaming, but I think that it'd probably do better on streaming. Hopefully it'll do better on streaming, so they'll make a sequel for it, because I actually really liked the movie. My dad liked the movie, so, you know, they probably should do a sequel for it, but I don't think that they should even be in discussion for it right now. They've got to wait till see what it does on streaming, because if they're basing it off of the theatrical numbers right now, they shouldn't do a sequel. But we'll see what it does on streaming, and then they can kind of go from there. But at number 10, we have Karate Kid Legends, which did exactly $1 million, down 58%. That film's up to $51 million in its domestic run in its 5th weekend. So that is the top 10 for this weekend. Let's move on to next weekend. We have literally only one film coming out next weekend, and that is Jurassic World Rebirth, a film that it's coming out on the 4th of July weekend, which is that 5-day weekend. You get that huge 5-day weekend, which is great for most films. But Jurassic World, this is real interesting because the last Jurassic World movie opened to about $140 million on the 3-day. So this one should do similarly, right? It's not tracking very well. It's tracking to do about $100 million on the 3-day rather than that 140. That could be because of, you know, franchise fatigue. I mean, you know, they're starting fresh for a film that came out just 3 years ago. You know, so there's not that much space between the two films. It's probably fatiguing the audience a little bit. But I do know a lot of people that are very excited for Jurassic World Rebirth. So I think it will do very well. I definitely think it'll do $100 million on the opening, domestic opening 3-day. On the 5-day, it should definitely get to 150. So 3-day, let's just do 3-day weekend. I think this thing will probably end up doing about $112 million on the 3-day. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it goes way higher. I hope it gets to the heights of the last one. But we'll see. So far, the word of mouth for this thing has been kind of mediocre. Some people saying that it's very good, some people saying it's just okay. I haven't heard anybody say that it's bad, so that's good, but just kind of it's okay. But some people think it's really good, so we'll see where the audience score lands on that, but that's where I see Jurassic World Rebirth about 112. Alright, if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and comment down below what you guys think that Jurassic World Rebirth will make on its domestic opening 3-day weekend, and I will see you guys next time.